is teach you how to scale to get to 100K. Now, if you're new to wholesaling, this is not a get rich quick scheme. In fact, it's kind of a get rich slow and learn the process. I'm going to show you how to do it because I've been right in your seat starting out, struggling to get my first deal, and fast forward to 21 years, 100K's a piece of cake a month. This did not happen overnight. I'm not selling you anything. I have no program to sell you. I just want to share the knowledge in this head because it's exploding right now. Scaling sounds like fish scales. Here's the one thing. Here's how I derive. So I'm a fisherman by trade. Like, I just love the fish. One of the greatest hobbies in the world. Most expensive too. Fish have a ton of scales on them. You'll never make a fish with one scale. And actually, sometimes there's hundreds of thousands, if not millions of scales. And so someone will use a scaler and descaling them. Maybe that's the origins of scales. I don't know. I just kind of made that up, but I thought that was kind of pretty cool. So if you understand scaling, what does scaling? Scaling means to expand your business, to do processes. Instead of doing it manually, create a process where you can leverage others, you can leverage other lists, you can leverage other types of marketing mediums, so you can duplicate the result. And instead of doing one deal, you could do 5 deals, 7 deals, 10 deals, 15, 20 deals. That's all scaling is. So how we use to leverage the scale is what we're going to talk about today. So understanding scaling equals growth. Bottom line, there's no other way this is cut, guys. Scaling equals growth. If you don't scale, it's very hard for you to manually grow. Now, in the beginning, you're going to grow like crazy because you're doing 0 deals, and some of you might get up 5, 6, 7 deals. That's not scaling. So what we're going to talk is when we start you off in the beginning is we manually explode your business. You manually explode your business. You learn how to talk to people, most importantly, how to connect with them. Then you're going to become a master negotiator, and then you're going to be the king of dispo. And you've got to master that process first before you even consider scaling, because without the fundamentals of wholesaling, meaning marketing, acquisitions, and dispositions, scaling doesn't work. In fact, there's people out there trying to sell you guys programs on how to scale your business, and you haven't even done your first deal. So before you even look at any type of scaling system, you've got to master the fundamentals. And how we teach you in wholesaling the fundamentals, number one, you learn them over at freewholesaling.com. If you haven't done a deal or you're just trying to scale, start there. Don't worry, I got nothing to sell you there. Once you do that, then you just get better at your processes. And as you get better with your process, you start to make more and more money. We're going to talk about the time frame for this. I'm going to save that for the end because that's important. So if we know scaling basically equals growth, in the beginning, when you guys start this, your growth comes from your manual effort. And I don't want to discount it. Honestly, your first 5 deals are the most important wholesaling deals you'll ever do in your life. I guarantee you this. There is no exception for this. You've got to understand this. So when we do that, when you start to get under deal number 5, you need to consider some sort of scaling method to explode your business. Because after 5 deals, the reality is your manual effort will eventually burn you out. I see wholesalers all the time. In fact, if you're the person on the phone closing everybody and you've been in this business for years, you're manually trying to grow your business. You'll still make money, but eventually you're probably going to burn out. How do I know this? That was me. I did everything the first 7 years. Why? Because I thought I knew it all. I didn't know it all. In fact, I was so good at talking with sellers, I didn't think anybody else could do it. And I convinced myself I had to do it. And I was the biggest problem in my own growth. So if you are growing your business, first identify where you are. If you haven't done a deal, then this is easy. You're in the startup stage. You got to get to the first 5 deals. End of story. Until you get to 5 deals, don't even consider scaling. Here's the reality. I'm going to tell you the truth that no other guru is going to tell you. If you can't get 5 deals under your belt, and I don't put a time frame on it, but like within a couple of years, you got to ask yourself, is wholesaling for me? It's just the truth. It's not for everybody. Not everybody agrees with my theory on it, but I've been around this business 21 years. And I'm telling you, if I have someone that's been in the business for years and they haven't got the deal 5, I'm not sure I want to be their business partner. In fact, I'm quite sure, because if you can't get it done, there's something not clicking. Now, some people blame their market. Some people blame the software. At the end of the day, if you truly want something to happen, you have to make it your must. So Scaling is growth. So if you're starting out and trying to get your first deal through your first 5 deals, this is kind of a futuristic look at how things are going to be. But you're going to learn a lot in this live stream, I promise. So rule number 1, I like to make the fishing analogy because I just love going out in nature and being out on the ocean, the lakes, the rivers, and the rule of thought. So I went fishing yesterday. Great trip. Awesome tuna bite. But once we got a bite on a tuna in an area, we stay there. Why? Because you ever heard the old fisherman's adage where you basically you leave biting fish to go try to find a better bite? It is ridiculous. You don't want to do that. In fact, if you do that, you're probably going to screw yourself over. You guys do it all the time in wholesaling. You're getting deals in a certain area that you're farming, and you decide to go bigger and badder, and you stopped doing what actually worked for you. So what I'm here to tell you, and I learned this yesterday, is never leave fish that are biting. It is tempting. The grass is always greener on the other side. This is how most gurus trap you into buying all this crap that's never going to benefit you. And if you understand that, keep doing what's working. That's the secret to scaling. Because once you get your 5th deal, you can't stop what you did to get deal 1 to 5. Because if you do, you're going to go broke, because scaling is going to be another uncomfortable position that you're going to have to learn to do it. I'm telling you, this is my personal experience, and I have verified it with thousands of other investors. You see, in wholesaling, you're constantly going to be challenged to be uncomfortable, but every uncomfortable hill you climb, you become stronger. End of story. You become bigger, you become badder, and you become much wiser on how to do wholesaling and how to master to become financially free. There's no way around it. If you don't do it, somebody else will school you on it. So rule number 1, keep doing what's working. So I'm going to run you through a little list. And this is just a recap of the basics of the fundamentals of wholesaling. Number 1, if you're working government lists, keep working them. Don't stop it. Because this is the biggest mistake you can take in wholesaling, is you stopped doing what works. So if I'm a fisherman and I'm catching fish in a spot and they're coming in on a regular basis, why on earth in this big pool of body of water, ocean, river, lake, whatever it is, why am I going to go guessing to find out where I can catch the next fish when I already got a roadmap where the gold is? I have a fishing hotspot and I'm bailing them in. And I considered doing this yesterday. Thank God I didn't do it, because it worked out really well for me. So the bottom line is, guys, make sure you always keep doing what's working. In fact, when I talk to people on Flip with Rick Plus, one of the rules is if you stop doing what's working, it's going to break on you. And so while you're scaling, because it's going to take some time to learn scaling, you still got to have that money coming in. So I always tell you guys, if you're not marketing, you're going to die in this business. So keep doing what you're doing. I can't emphasize this point enough. Please do not change it. If you change it, it's going to be challenging. So if you're implementing your government list, you're doing the reverse driving for dollars, keep doing it. But Rick, man, it's like double time work. I got to learn the scaling and I got to go out and do all these tactics. Well, guys, welcome to wholesaling. This is how it works. There's no other way around it. So if you're doing reverse driving dollars with government lists, keep doing it. You're going to hear a common theme in this over and over. Next, if you're doing driving for dollars, keep doing it. So in essence, you're going to have 2 jobs. You're going to have your manual wholesaling job. And remember, this is what got you through your first 5 deals. And I want you to continue it, because you're going to need another 4 or 5 to survive to get through the scaling method. Why? Scaling is going to cost you some money. End of story. There's no way around it. So if you understand that, use your government list, you're doing a reverse driving for dollars, you're doing driving for dollars, maybe you're doing some door knocking, whatever it is, keep doing that. I can't emphasize this enough to you. So many of you leave one to try to do something you think is going to be easier, and you're going to find out the hard way. It's going to require capital. It's going to require an intense amount of time to learn it, and you are going to go broke if you stop doing what worked. So if I have not made myself crystal clear, do not leave fish that are biting. Stay in the same spot, keep getting them, and then you can start training on how to do the scaling and getting your system set up, because it's going to take some time and you're going to be wildly uncomfortable. It's perfectly normal. You're going to be just as uncomfortable when the day I had you start wholesaling. So if you understand that going into it, We have a clear vision. Keep doing what's working, whatever got you that deal number 5. Maybe you're on deal number 3. Keep pushing till you get there. I don't want you to scale till you get to like 5 deals. At least 5 deals under contract. Why? Because that's how you're going to cut your teeth on the fundamentals of wholesaling. Everybody has to go through it. It doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter how you are going to get killed. End of story. So now that I've beaten that point home, because it's very, very important to me, let's get into the scaling part. So once we know we have a base and we're going to keep doing it. So this is just like you people working your corporate job, your manual wholesaling, you got to keep working that job. The next one we're going to jump over, the easiest and most simplest scaling method, you know exactly what I'm going to say because a lot of you already employed in it, is direct mail. Now, before you start throwing a temper tantrum or anything with direct mail, let me give you a little crash course here. For the last 6 years, maybe 7, there was a huge push for data. Why? Because data became very publicly available. And when data becomes publicly available, people crash the market. Well, the problem is SMS just got hammered. RVM was amazing, pretty much outlawed, depending on what state you're in, definitely in my states. And then the advent of doing triple line dialers with cold calling. And they said, just get all this information and crash, get everybody in it. Well, we've got problems because now the data is much cheaper. There's more people doing it than ever, and people are getting inundated with these marketing techniques. So what everybody thought was a quick cheat sheet way to leverage marketing mediums is now starting to blow up in our own face. You guys know what I mean? SMS, the carriers have cracked down on it, and it doesn't matter what software you use until we can figure a way to crack the code on the carriers busting us. SMS is challenging. It still works, but the spam likely thing is out of control on it, and it's a challenge. And I want you to understand going into that. So RVM, pretty much illegal or soon to be illegal. Cold calling, the saturation levels are high. Let's just admit it. It is what it is. So you all did these methods to avoid direct mail. Why? Oh my God, it's so expensive. I cannot do it. Well, guys, I'm here to tell you, you're in 2024, we're in May, and I'm telling you, the one thing you got to understand about direct mail, here, I'll show you. Ready? Call it DM. It's legal. You understand that? It's 100% illegal. It can't be stopped. It's the United States Postal Service, and it doesn't stop. Now, here's what I want to tell you. I'm just going to give you a quick crash course on this because everybody freaks out. They're like, oh my God, direct mail, that's horrifying. How do I make that work? Direct mail is simple. I've been doing it over 18 years now. And I had all the same problems you guys did. You know what I do? Is I would write a big fat check or a credit card. At the time, it was a check. And when I wrote that check, I literally freaked out. On average, what did I write a check for? Around $2,500. That was just in one campaign, 1 month. Does everybody understand that? I had some of the most nerve-wracking pain when I wrote these checks. I was broke, dude. Like I would do a deal and then I got to the point like, okay, I'm way over 5. How do I scale this? Someone goes, hey, you got to do direct mail. The guessing game started for 2 years. I did everything wrong. I lost a lot of money and I figured out direct mail. I'm one of the few people in the country that understands direct mail extremely well. In fact, once you understand direct mail, it is highly profitable, very predictable, and one of the best scaling methods. This is why I like direct mail so much. Now, hold on before I get into it because ADA is kicking in. $2,500 a month. And then I would wait. I wait for the phones to ring. I was very impatient. I would need to get that $2,500 back before the bill came due on a credit card or a check. And then how long would you wait? Here's the challenge with direct mail. On average, direct mail takes 90 days to get your ROI. Does everybody understand that? But here's the mindset everybody talks about direct mail. They want instant results. That's what everybody wants. So here's what the marketers did in wholesaling is they presented you expensive data. I'll give fair to it got traction. I knew it wouldn't last because there was too many people blitzing it and everybody wanted to get the instant results. So now here we are at the instant results stage and you're all struggling to find any type of marketing that gets instant results. Now, you know, the argument I'm going to come up with is, do you want to run a marathon or you want to be a sprinter? Everybody that did the instant results on the data craze, we're going to stack lists. We're just sit there and do cold call boiler rooms. We're going to like send out 100,000 texts. They're all lost. They don't know what to do. And the fact is, if you made so much money during that time, just jump back to direct mail. Why? It's legal, it's scalable. Here's the downside. You're going to have to wait 90 days to get your return on your investment. Oh my God. That sounds terrible. Well, let's talk about the average return for direct mail. So I know a thing or two about direct mail. Number one, it's legal. Number two, we said it's legal. It's scalable. Probably didn't spell that right. So don't sit there and you're not using me for the grammar. What works best? Postcards, hands down. What's the average cost for a postcard? I want to say it's like 56 cents, 56.56 cents. So let's do some math here. What is the minimum amount of postcards you should send in a mailer? I would never do anything less than 1,000, and I would say a minimum of 1,500. That's just beginning numbers. You guys are sending out 200 and 300 mailers outside of probate. You're wasting your time and money. It is not a big enough statistical data to get a deal. Sorry. And the reason I have you start small is because I'm going to teach you how to pull your markets, how to get the information, and then how to institute what we call a direct mail schedule and forecast. But you got to start small in the beginning so you understand how all the pieces go together. I'd love you to send out 20,000 pieces. I do that all the time, but I'm here to tell you you have to do it systematically. So let's figure it like this. Say you're going to send out 3,000 postcards. Not a bad start. And 0.56. That's basically $1,680. And that's 3K pieces. 1,680. You're like, oh crap, they're going to hit my credit card. Like, how do I get a return on this? On average, if you will wait the 90 days, you will get a 2 times return. You tell me any other business or any other marketing method that will pretty much hands down give you a 2 times return. But what do people do? They send out 500 pieces and then they go on Instagram, they go on Facebook, they go on social media, they go, direct mail doesn't work. It's like a slow slug giant. And I tried, it just doesn't work. You're right. It doesn't work because you don't understand the rules of the game. Let me give an example. If you ever play somebody in Monopoly, most people, 90% of the people who play Monopoly, they have never read the rule book. I found this out the hard way. The minute you read the rule book of Monopoly, you will destroy 90% of your opponents statistically. Why? Because they just understand the generics of the game. Mom and dad paid when you were young and you didn't understand you could do all that stuff. Guys, who has been abused in Monopoly? I was abused as a child in Monopoly. I didn't understand the rules of the game of money. And if you try to apply the poor man's mentality to Monopoly, you will get killed. In fact, once you learn how to do loans and securitize mortgages and spread your risk out, you can nail people because people are always looking to get the bling and look good. You've got to understand it. So 90 days of 2 times return. So that means the 1,680 turns into 3,360. Now, it's not a huge win, but remember, this is the part where you're learning how to scale your business. That's why it's so important you don't stop doing what works in the beginning. Because I just taught you how to do a 2 times return. It's going to take you 90 to 100 days on average. Most of you quit in a week or two because you freak out. Mail is a different technique. It is a different process, and you have to understand that. So let's fast forward now. Say you're 3 to 6 months into it. Now you're going to get braver. Here's the key. I only made you a 2 times return. So say you spend $4,000 on direct mail total. How do I spend $4,000? Well, I got to divide it. This is where I should have paid attention to math. That's basically 7,100 pieces, 7,100 pieces of mail. Now, I told you before, on average, when you start out, you get a 2 times return. So if I put $4,000 into it, you make $8,000. Like, God, Rick, this is like Vegas. I can keep doubling my money. No, it doesn't work that way. There is a learning curve on this. But the reality is you're eventually going to go to 3 times, then you're going to go to 4 times. And then when you become a master, like me, you are going to get a 5 times return. Insane. Let me show you some numbers. $4,000 times 3, that's going to get you 12K, 16K, and this is going to get you 20K. Guys, this is how you scale a business. It's scalable, it is legal, and here's my favorite part of it. You ready? My favorite part of direct mail. And this is why I use it as one of the beginning transition pieces for people looking to scale their wholesaling business, especially in the first year, definitely by year 2. One person can do this. You don't have to go out and hire a giant staff. I'm teaching you how to scale with what you have. Because first you had to master wholesaling. Once you mastered wholesaling, then you had to figure out how to scale it. Well, how do I scale it without getting buried in employee overhead? You do it through direct mail because it only takes one person. Now, at the end of this, I'm going to go over the numbers and share with you on how it works. But guys, direct mail, anyone who tells you it doesn't work, they don't understand, they don't do it. I don't know any large wholesaler in the United States that does not employ direct mail. Go find me one. Oh, I got a PPC guy. Yeah, I guarantee they sell a PPC course. If you're truly into wholesaling and you're not into coaching and you like to do wholesale deals, direct mail is a must. It's scalable. And every time I spend my money, if I spend 10K, I get 50K in return. Now, it averages out. It's never perfect per quarter, but that's what my company expects to derive from. Simply, we are consistent, we are disciplined, and we never stop doing it. I love it. It works. Now, I've learned a thing or two over the last 18 years of wholesaling. So if you guys ever heard of, we call it the ROS postcard. That stands for Rapid Offer System. I created this because I got lazy in wholesaling, especially in direct mail, and I kept using, that Google image people use. Everybody saturated, it got ridiculous. And so I created a system. And people ask me, what are the 2 biggest complaints we get from our wholesaling from people who are trying to wholesale houses? Number 1, get me off your list. I can't do anything about that complaint. This is literally going through hundreds of thousands of responses in our database. And number 2 is, what is your offer? And I started thinking, I go, man, what if we just gave them the offer? Oh, Rick, no. Every guru taught you in this country, you never give your offer first. Well, guess what we did? We decided just to change it, because if everybody's doing the exact same thing, we're just going to do the opposite. Why? Because a lot of people get direct mail pieces. So if they get 7 pieces of direct mail and one guy, and it ever says, call to get your offer, call to get your offer, call to see if you qualify your offer, and Rick Ginn just gives you the offer, voila, I am the first one called every time. And guys, it happens over and over in my business. Now, ROS took me 2.5 years to develop. And what we did is we tested. I spent over $70,000 in direct mail cost. I'm talking about physical mailing, a lot of mailings. When I first did it, I learned I put too much on the postcard and it was too busy. The next mailing I did is I put too low of an offer. I think I did 5,000 pieces and I got 2 phone calls. So I offered I did a go for no. And this is what emphasizes my point. The go for no only works when you develop an amazing relationship with people. You guys understand that? I want you to understand that. Go for no is very, very important, that you develop a relationship. My next mailing, I offered way too much. And you know what happened? I got absolutely inundated with retail sellers, and we couldn't even keep up with the phones. So what we did is start dialing in the data. And I figured out over 2.5 years, I know the exact rough number that people are looking to sell their house for a discount that have a problem with their house. They want to get rid of the realtor, they want to get rid of the closing cost, and they don't want all that inspection and contingency period. So we figured out a number. It's all in ROS. I give the whole damn thing away for free. I'm telling you, I have 18 years of experience. It works like magic. And here's the cool part is ROS is set up where you can't mass produce it all over the country. There's intricate details in there that you can copy. You can do the ad copy. I don't care, but you're not going to figure it out on your own. And I did this by design because I learned from the last 6-7 years, the gurus, when they filled up the room with thousands of people, they go, I have a secret technique. Once you put it out there, it's not a secret anymore. It's not a secret. ROS in the right hands is one of the most deadly direct mail pieces for scaling you can ever do. Why? Because I've got a couple hundred people across the country that do it with my specialized training. And by the way, I don't charge the train for this. If you want to learn how to do it, go over to mailingmastery.com. Once again, I'm completely different than any other teacher or guru out there. I give you the information and I want you to harvest it to do deals. Why? Because I want you to do deals with me. So how do I prove myself? I create so much value. I give you things that actually work because I want to partner with you on deals. And then you guys go out and strategize them. Now, Mailing Mastery will give you the crash course on how to do this. I talk about the psychology of a seller and why this works. For those of you old school sellers out there that say, old school wholesalers that say, you have to not give the offer to make wholesaling work, just you don't understand. If you want to be like every other wholesaler out there, take that mentality, because that's how people think. I'm going to do it differently. I'm the guy who's going to read the rules to the game and like Monopoly. And I'm going to be one of the 10% special people. I'm going to kick 90% of the wholesalers' butts out there. Who cares who gives the offer first? If you use my strategy of the go for no, I don't even care what I offer on the postcard. The whole goal of direct mail, just so you know, is to engage the prospect to call you legally and ethically. That's it. And unless you understand that rules, I see postcards all the time because I get them on all my properties. It reads like a monologue, like a book. Like you might as well go get a teleprompter. If you're not confident in like on how to qualify people, then do that method. You should have the least amount of information on a postcard humanly available. There's got to be a call to action. There's got to be a reason to call me to help you. If I spell everything I do on the postcard, I don't want to call you. And the fact is, people have less than like a 6-7 second attention span when looking at a postcard. If they can't wrap their head around it, I want them to recognize their address, their name, and the offer price within 5 seconds of reading that postcard. That's it. You want to go out and duplicate my postcard and knock yourself out. But unless you're going to do extensive testing, you're literally wasting your time. I'm not going to put this where it gets in millions of people's hands. In fact, I met with a special guru, like consulting client, like great people, but they wanted me to charge 10 grand just to get access to it. You obviously know I didn't do that, but I've made so much more money on doing deals with everybody that tunes into me and Zach. I look for the marathon. I don't look for the sprint. The sprint takes the money because I constantly have to take money. I have to sell a Novations course. Now they tell you, all the gurus tell you, Novations really don't work and they're really messy and I really advise against it. What did I tell you guys 2-3 years ago? It's a train wreck. It is a course grab. That's all it is. I'm sorry. End of story. I can go down the line. There's so many techniques being offered right now. Now, the next thing is people are telling you, get rid of your short-term rentals. They don't work anymore. I'm like, yeah, it's funny. For the last 4 years, you said it's the greatest thing in the sliced bread. The problem is at some point you have to come up and run a marathon. It's okay to sprint through a season, but if you sprint to each season, you will never make it. And listen, I saw the Airbnb disaster way down. Too many people got into it. Everybody put it in. It's like a software. It's like the Uber or real estate. And listen, I've already told you, short-term rentals work for exotic locations where people want to visit and go on vacation. They do not work in major metropolitan areas where people are just trying to get by. I'm sorry. They're never going to work. And there's a reason why all these cities are outlawing it. And by the way, there's a bunch of new techniques coming in. Someone's going to come out with another software. I know there's all sorts of software out there. And now everybody talks about affordable housing. I'm all about affordable housing, but it's got to make sense. You can't just keep chopping up houses because I know in the cities I live in, you're not allowed to reside more than one family member and a guest can't stay, I think, more than like 10 days. So eventually they're going to like, I don't want like 15 rooms rented out next to me on like a pad split. Now I'll sell the pad split buyers all day long. Like, don't get me wrong. But I think there's a lot of problems with that one coming down the pipeline. Once again, it's a quick money grab and you're going to see courses coming out of it left and right. So understand this, direct mail, ROS. If you want to learn more about mailingmastery.com, this is the first place I'm going to go to scale my wholesaling business. Why? Because I can do it by myself. It's scalable and everything can be done on a home computer and be done quickly and simply. Now, you're going to have to answer phones in the beginning. Once again, you have to learn how to answer your phones live. For the longest time, gurus told me, don't ever answer your phone live. Screen it through a message. I ate these people for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Why? Because when someone got 7 postcards, they go through and they make 4 phone calls and then they get to me and guess who answered the phone live? Hey, listen, I tell every seller, listen, I appreciate you calling me. I need you to do me a favor. Don't call any of these other postcards back till I meet with you and see if we can form an agreement. Is that fair? I circled the boats. I didn't let anybody in. Why? Because I knew they had 7 postcards. I knew mine was the most attractive postcard. And even if they called them in logic of order, whoever answered the phone got the deal. That's the secret to direct mail. Now, you can easily do this yourself. We're going to go over the numbers and show you how to do it. The next scaling is going to be JV partners. Yeah, JV partners. In fact, there's people in our live comments right now that are willing to connect with you and work a deal with you. So if you don't have an experience and you don't know how to write contracts and you don't have good cash buyers, but you have a motivated seller, go find somebody in your market or someone nationally or Rick and Zach, and we'll work with you. And if it's a good enough deal, we can fund it. It's got to make sense. We like to do assignments, but I'd rather you make some money than no money. My favorite thing is a 50-50 split. For the longest time, in the last 6-7 years, a lot of gurus went out there and said, just pay someone 20% to help you sell the property. No, I don't get out of bed for 20% of a profit split. It doesn't make any type of sense to do that. And listen, don't be greedy. Both make money together. And if you enjoy that person, you continue the relationship and you can do more deals. Go find a skill set that will complement yours, something you're really weak at, and have them do that. I was really good at connecting with people. I was terrible at disposition, so it was easy for me to find a JV partner. There are a lot of Ricks. There's a lot of Zachs out there looking to do deals with you. Reach out to them. We have plenty of members in our community that want to do deals, that are very good at doing it. But for God's sakes, guys, you can do more deals like JV partnerships. They're everywhere. Now, one of the best ways to find JV partners is go to your local RIA meetup groups. Once again, I'm going to beat it like a drum. Pay whatever membership, the fees to get into their door interest is. Usually the first time you go, it's for free. And pay attention before the event and network like crazy. Don't go there and like be an introvert, not talk to anyone, because it defeats the entire purpose of it. And then after the event, it's even better. Everybody hangs around. Sometimes people get a bite to eat and a drink. It is perfect. The parking lot, I did more damage in a RIA parking lot than I ever did inside that room. Now, they're going to sell you a bunch of courses. It's all a money grab. I'm just telling you, people come into town, they split it with the host, and then you never see them again. I'm sure they're not all bad, but for the most part, that's one of the reasons I got out of the RIA business, because I can't promote crap. Let me show you how to be your own general contractor. Really? No, I want to teach you how to be a wholesaler. So I will tell you, JVs is an amazing opportunity. It's a big part of my income now. So if I'm still scaling it, you should consider scaling it with JVs. Why? Because it absolutely works. Now, the next one, to me, is a no-brainer. When you go through wholesaling, not every deal is going to be picture perfect. Some people are going to owe too much money. And the reality is, if you truly want to help people, you've got to load your weapons in your tool belt to help people out. Now, I'm a strong adamant. Me and Zach speak out loudly when we know something doesn't work. It's our opinion. You can do what you want. But I've been doing wholesaling 21 years, and I'm telling you, this next it's been around forever. It's been around for hundreds of years. It wasn't created recently. It's creative financing. Now, in my opinion on creative financing, when you are the only solution to people that have low equity, and you can take over payment at a low interest rate and a reasonable monthly number, then do it. It's simple. And here's what I don't want you to do. Don't go into creative financing thinking you can avoid wholesaling. Oh, it's so much easier. That's just a big white lie. I'm sorry. All great, in my opinion, great, really good creative finance people, they all had like the roots in wholesaling in the beginning. They understand what's a deal. They know the deepest discount, and then they graduate to the next level. Now, I don't market specifically for creative financing. When it lands in my lap through my wholesaling leads, I take them down. And to me, is you can never make somebody do a creative financing deal. Either it works or it doesn't. And remember, I'm not in the business of selling anything in wholesaling. Creative financing is even more important, that you have full cooperation to do the deal. Now, I don't teach every technique in creative financing because I do not believe it is a beginner strategy. Once again, this is my opinion. Do whatever you want. There has to be some responsibilities taught into this. Creative financing can get really gray. What do I mean by this? You have to have full transparency with your seller. And usually for the most part, most people teach it and they go, yes, you're honest with them up front. Let them know what you're doing with the property. Here's where I do not subscribe to the theory. Whenever there's an outside financing source like a bank, credit union, or anything like that, you have to disclose everything. I'm sorry. If you don't disclose everything, it is 100% fraud. So if you have a deal with the seller to refinance the property after or float their down payment back, if you don't disclose that in your loan documents, you're going to have a problem. In fact, there is a famous person right now that might have been our ex-president that they're trying to nail for this right now. If they can nail him, they can nail you. I'm just telling you. If you have an outside agreement, you have to disclose it. If the agreement happens after you purchase it and they agree to it, it's fine. But the problem is when you're manipulating, especially on the higher purchase price, and people tell you, don't tell your lender, I'd be very careful because that's going to wind up in an affidavit if something goes wrong with that property. So you can do what you want to do. I'd make sure you have the advisement of a legal person like a lawyer if you're going to do something like that. Remember, if you hide a material fact, you're technically committing fraud. Now, how many people get pursued on that? Not a lot. But if someone gets rubbed the wrong way or the property goes in foreclosure, you could be open up to a lot of investigation. This is why I don't teach creative financing to like brand new people. And I always encourage you to pair up with someone that can help you take the deal down. Because I did creative financing in the beginning and I picked the absolute worst time to do it. At the peak of the market, I took down 5 properties, actually 7. 5 I wound up keeping, and I got rid of all of them. And 3 out of the 5, I actually gave back to the seller under the advisement of a lawyer because rents went down 50%. I did not have the pockets to carry these properties, and I started creative financing too soon. And I didn't understand the legal paperwork, what I was signing, and I had some problems. It took me about 1.5 years to unwind, and I stayed away from creative financing for a few years, and I go, listen, they kept so when the market really was bad in 2010, 11, I was buried in creative financing. I go, I better learn this. And I started making money, and then I got really good at it. And that was my story. So which ones did I do? I love subject twos. That's when you take over existing financing. I will tell you that the federal government is trying to crack down on this. There's such widespread bad information out there. And remember, I want to say 75 to 80% of mortgages are backed by Fannie and Freddie Mae. And that means the United States government's backed them. So the government can shut this down almost overnight. If it gets too inundated, there's a lot of complaints. They could basically restrict you from doing a subject to taking over any loan that's insured by the federal government, being a Fannie Mae or a Freddie Mac. And that would suck. And people are like, oh, there's no way they can do it. They can do it. If they're backing almost 75% of the mortgages, they can just put a clause in there and make it, they'll make a penalty so great you never want to do it. Now, before you do a subject to, make sure you have all the material facts because you're taking it over subject to the existing terms of the property. Now, the finance, you've got to work with the seller. They got to be 100%, 10% cooperative. There's a risk of a due on sale clause, all sorts of stuff. But for the most part, if you do it right and you make money up front, you make monthly cash flow, and you make money at the end, go for it. This is how you make money. The latest craze is where people are writing big checks up front, and then they're not making a ton of cash flow. They're making some, and they have no idea what their exit strategy is. That means you made absolutely no money, and you're just waving the brag flag. I did a creative financing deal. You beginners can't afford to do that. You can't write $40,000 and $50,000 checks. So you're going to have to get deals. Most of my creative financing is little to no money down at all. Period. End of story. I'm not taking over properties $50,000 unless it's a personal investment or a personal buy I want to do. Nor should you as a beginner wholesaler. So the other ones I did are options. You guys overlook options. Options are a great way to scale your business. And an option is an easy way to basically say, listen, I want to option your property for $300,000 and I have 2 years to make good on it. Once I have the rights, you have to record it in public record. You now have an interest in the property. And if you can sell that property or find a higher and better use, you can earn anything over that $300,000. Now, you're going to have to pay a fee to do that. I've optioned $500,000 properties for less than $1,000. Why? Well, Rick, that's risky. No, actually, I got a 50-50 probability I can make at least $50,000 or more on it. Now, if you want to add another layer to creative financing, you can do what we call lease options. And they're basically 2 separate techniques combined. So basically, I option your property. I give you $1,000 up front for a future price that a guaranteed price locked in, might be 3 years or 5 years, say for $300,000. And then I go out and I take your property with full permission and rights to lease it back. I find a renter or I find a long-term leaser or a rent-to-own type of person. They give me 10 grand up front. I pocket like 8 or 9 grand. And then basically I'm paying that person $2,000 a month. They're paying me $2,500 a month. I make $500 a month and then I sell it to them for $350. I have an option price of $300. The two have to be completely separate. I'm not giving you legal advice here, but these things work. The key to these is they have to be really nice houses. You can't go in and do massive rehab on them. I want houses that most need a little bit of paint, maybe an appliance, or like one room needs carpeting. That's it. Why? Because time is money. If you keep making payments and you don't have someone to lease it to, you're going to get killed on them. So I want you to understand that. So let's go through this. Let's talk about let me get my mic here so people can hear me. Let's talk about the numbers on how the scaling actually looks and what's the cost and how many employees do I need, Rick? That's like one of the biggest questions I get. So the first thing you got to understand is the first phase, number one, is what works now, okay? This is going to be your government lists, your driving for dollars, reverse driving for dollars. And you should have at least 5 deals under your belt before you even consider scaling. Does everybody follow me on that? It's so important you understand this because a lot of people try to leave one thing to go to another and they get killed on it. So if you know that, step 2, and the idea of this is going to give you basically your safe cash flow. And what do I mean by safe cash flow? At this level right here, you should be around 20K a month. Okay. It's so important you don't lose that cash flow because if it goes to 0 and you add scaling, then you're going to have cost and you're going to go broke. Ask me how I know. Step number 2 is now we are in scaling, right? So now I'm going to take what I did in number 1 and keep doing it. I'm going to keep emphasizing this overall. Then I'm going to add direct mail. How long am I going to employ direct mail? 90 days minimum. Anything less, you're wasting your time and your money in direct mail. What's my recommended starting out? Well, let's back it down to pieces. You can't do less than 1,000 pieces, and that's not going to get you far. So let's start out and say 2,500 pieces, and it's going to run you about $1,500 a month. So here's the technique. Here's what I school everybody in direct mail. If you know you need 90 days, take 1,500 times 3. You need to budget $4,500. Why? Because I don't need you freaking out after like 30 days. I go, listen, you need to write another check to the mailing company for $1,500. Like, oh my God. Once you budget $4,500, it's easier. So do you understand why I want you to keep doing your 20K? Because if you don't, you're going to have a problem with this because you have to pay for this. The problem is you are going to net less. So take 20 minus, let's just call it 5. Now your bank account's down to 15 grand. You're like, uh-oh, I'm going backwards. No, listen, here's how scaling looks, guys. When you've got a wholesaling business and you got 5 deals, things are going good. You think you're just going to go up forever. The reality is you're going to start to fizzle out. So when you do scaling, so say you bring in scaling here, your cash flow is going to go down and then you're going to slowly work it up and then you're going to get a big, big rise. You are going to have to go down to go up. I've never seen anyone who just magically exploded. It doesn't work that way. So if you understand how it works, and that's how all business really works, is on this, basically I'm going to commit to $1,500 now, $4,500. Now, if I budgeted $4,500, how much can I expect after 90 days on this? That's easy. I already gave you the cheat sheet to it. If you're going to get a 2 times return, that is going to bring us down to basically $9,000. And remember, that is just the first 90 days. Eventually, you're going to get to a 4 to 5 times return. And so if I did 4,500 times 4, 4,500 times 4, that's going to give me 18K. And if I add another one on there, that would be plus 4,500, basically 18 to 22K. That's what we want to target. So keep in mind, this is a running total. If I have 20 there and say I get 18, now I'm making close to 40K a month. All right, we're scaling, we're growing. This is how it's working. Do you understand this? So now we got to move on to technique number 3 and say you're going to do the JV partner. Now, remember, I already told you go to RIAs, go to all your other stuff so you can take care of that. And on the JV partner, you should easily find another 20K. It's not going to start off in 20K, but in 3 to 6 months, you get 5 grand, you get 10, you get 15. And now we're going to add this to our scaling. So let's keep a running budget here. 20, we're going to add 40. And then you're going to, so 20 plus 40, 60. Now we're around 80K a month. We're going to talk about times and we're going to talk about employees after this. Now, let's move over to technique number 4. What if I come across great creative financing deals? Can I do them? Absolutely. I don't want this to be your sole starting out because there is a learning curve here. Ask anyone who does creative financing. There is a learning curve. This can't be the first way you start out. If you don't have help, you're going to get killed. The reality is we're talking about doing subject twos. Can't spell today. Lease options. I mean, there's so many. I could go on and on and do 10 hours on this. Why? Because I've been doing this 21 years. I've seen every technique. To try to learn this all in like an hour is hard to do. So once we do that, we can basically simply add another 20K. It's not going to happen overnight, but I'm telling you, there's a lot of people that need help where you're the only solution. You just have to provide them the solution and you have to learn how to do it. And guys, that brings us to our grand total of, 100K a month. 20 plus 40 plus 20, 20 plus 40. We get 20, 40, 60. Add the JV, that's 80 plus another 20 there, it's 100K. Now, here's what you got to understand. This is not an overnight get rich quick scheme. This is going to take time. On average, how much time should this take me? And Rick, what does it look like for like employees? I am so glad you asked that. And so let's start on over here. I love these old school whiteboards, although my mom says I should have been a doctor with my handwriting, but you guys know how I did with school. So let's think about this. What is the time frame? So to get your first 5 deals, let's be honest, most of you guys are 6 to 12 months now. Are there exceptions and superstars? Yeah. But remember, I need you to be a marathon wholesaler, not just a sprinter. Sprinters look good for a season. They look good for 3 to 6 months, and then you never see them again. I know a million gurus that run this way. Why? Because they just took the quick cash. They don't want to stick around 21 years and like really help people out. They just want to get that cash and go on to their next business venture. So 6 to 12 months. Let's add direct mail. Once again, you're going to be 3 to 6 months. Okay. So this is a little bit less because you already learned this is where you learn the fundamentals of wholesaling. This is where you learn to scale with direct mail. So now we're between 9 to 18 months. Everybody thinks I made it overnight. I didn't. It was a long journey for me. Then I'm going to add JV partners. You can get proficient within 3 to 6 months. And then if I add creative financing, options, subject to, list goes on and on. Honestly, that's anywhere from 3 to 12 months. This is a growth period. You start out over here and you get up to 20K a month. Then I add direct mail. And if it takes me 3 to 6 months, I get that. I basically, direct mail has the biggest, fastest impact on it. And basically you can add 40 to 60. What's the number I put down there? On direct mail is basically, what did I put? Direct mail, 40 to 60K. So I'm here to tell you, you can easily do 50K a month in direct mail. It's not going to start out like that. So now you're running at 70. I add JV. That's another 20. And then I add creative options, 20K. Now, creative financing, once you get past that 1 year mark and you really understand it, 20K is kind of a joke. Like it's so easy to create 20K. And I'm here to tell you, what is the one scalable one? And by the way, there's other ways to scale. You can do PPC, all this other stuff. Most of it doesn't work. That's why only people that will teach you it that have basically marketing agencies and consulting companies will promote it. I will tell you right now, direct mail alone, once you master it, you can get a 5 times return and make 100K alone a month. I've done this, guys, in my sleep. Now, here's the cool part. This is one employee. This is one employee up to 50K. After that, we'll have to talk. JV partners, definitely one employee. And then creative finance is basically one employee, which is you. Now, let's talk about the scalability of where you need help. Most of you do not have this problem right now, and I want you to understand that. So you go out and you instantly start hiring people. Until you sniff an 80K month on a consistent basis, don't consider hiring someone. You're wasting your time. The reality is you have to generate cash flow and you got to understand the fundamentals of wholesaling. So here's the reality is you could do I'm going to go a little bit lighter. 500 to 650K in wholesaling with one employee with your eyes shut. Sorry, guys, that's the truth. So unless you're grossing 650K, I don't want to hear about hiring employees. If you have someone that's helping you with marketing and they're not expensive and they're contributing massively to your bottom line, that is my exception. When I say employees, I'm talking about people working in an office that are specifically working for you. If you have a 1099 contracted employee, knock yourself out, because you don't really owe them anything if you let them go. And they should be contributing to your bottom line, and it'd be some sort of commission or distribution when you do that. Now, here's where people get lost. From 651 to 1.2 million is usually going to have to add one additional employee. Now, I don't use the word employee because most of you are going to call them a 1099. And this is a person that pays off the profitability of your company. These are going to be salespeople. I don't really call them salespeople, but I call them marketing helpers. Anyone that helps your marketing your list. And eventually, this is where you can bring in someone to do acquisitions to help you out. Once you're at 1.2 million, you're going to have to add people because you're going to run out of time and energy. This is pretty much where I hit the cap, and it's like there's only so much you can do because there's not enough hours in the day to do it. Now, here's the really cool part. From 1.2 to basically 4.5, which I found is the kind of the number, you can do this with a very small team of scalability. How do I know that's it? Here's where most people get in trouble. So if we know the time frame and we know the size, you can do it from one employee, which is you. You can add another employee approaching the second half of 650K. And then once you get at the once you clear the $1 million marker, bring somebody in to help you out. Like, I'll make it simple. I did 1.2 all by myself, all by my lonesome. Actually higher than that, but that's what was documented on my tax return when I did it. And you've got to understand. But here's the dream you're all being sold right now. Let me teach you how to do 10 to $15 million in gross. Okay. Here's the truth, guys. The amount of people that do this number in wholesaling, they're slim to none. I'm not saying there's not people out there to do it, but like, say, even if you do this and this is their target, because remember, all real estate's local. So there's only the more you scale, the margins get tighter. Does everybody understand that? And when I get to this, so if someone grosses 10 mil, the reality is 5 mil is going to come off for costs, marketing, everything. So now let's just say that leaves 5 million, and say they got another $1 million of referral fees, commissions and stuff, 4 million. Well, guess what? What if you have like 3 or 4 partners, which a lot of them do? So if I take 4 million and I divide it by 3 partners, what's that give me? And this is the typical case I see. 4 million divided by 3 partners is each partner gets 1.3. Remember, this is before taxes or anything else. Remember, they have overhead, they have a lot of costs. And the thing is, they're working in an office, and you know what they're doing? They're doing exactly what they said they would never do. I don't want to be prisoned by an office and enslaved and reporting to the office at 7 a.m., leaving at 6 p.m., and spending no time with my kids or anything. I've done this. You can do it. It's just not me. I don't teach it. Why? Because less than 3% of the people will ever even see this. The reality is $10 to $15 million. Unless you're doing a high-end luxury real estate, the question is, what do you take home at the end of the day? I know exactly what I take home today. I make a ton of money. If you have to wait to talk to your accountant to find out how much money you made, you're doing the business wrong. I don't want to go into an office and just grind every day where I have to take long vacations. You know what I want to do? I want to go out, and I'd show you the picture, but I don't have it. I like to go fishing. So if I want to go fishing, I'm going to go fishing. My business still operates. I still have employees, but I run a small team. 4 to 5 is really the max I've ever seen anybody need in wholesaling.